This is a sewing machine. Yours might look a little differently than this if you're not using a Bernina. You might not have all of these buttons on the side. You might have dials or knobs instead. It's not a problem. First, let's talk about the power supply, which is going to be on the right-hand side of this machine. Every machine needs to get power from an electrical outlet. So on the side of your machine, you will see an area where you can plug in a switch that will look something like this. You'll plug in this end into the machine, and then this end will go into your power outlet. Once that is plugged in, you can turn the on and off switch. On this side of the machine, you will also see the hand wheel. This hand wheel is turned and moves the needle up and down. This is the foot pedal. You will use this to control the speed that the needle moves up and down. You operate the foot pedal with your foot, but it does take a little getting used to, much like driving a car. Apply pressure evenly and slowly until the machine starts running. In order to connect this to the machine, there will be some sort of cord usually wound onto the back side of the foot. Plug this into the machine to provide power to the foot pedal. This is the needle. This needle is threaded and works with the bobbin to create a strong stitch. It is controlled by the foot pedal and also the hand wheel. This is the presser foot, and this is located just behind the needle. This holds the fabric tightly against the machine while you sew. In the back of my machine is the presser foot lever. This lever is raised up and down to lower or raise the presser foot. It's in the up position when you are inserting your fabric underneath the needle, and then lowered to hold your fabric in place. Underneath the presser foot is the feed dog. This works with the presser foot to ensure an even stitch length. You will see that it has a few rows of tiny teeth that help grip the fabric as it's pushed underneath the presser foot. The metal plate that surrounds the presser foot and the feed dog is called the throat plate, and this will be infinitely helpful to you as you learn to sew. On this plate are a series of lines that you can use as guides for when you're sewing. If you line up the edge of your fabric against one of the guidelines, it will help to keep your stitches straight, as well as make sure you maintain a consistent seam allowance. This button here is the reverse button. When you press this button in and hold it, it will cause your machine to stitch in reverse. When you release the button, your machine will stitch forward again. Behind this guard is the thread take-up. It's a metal finger with a thread guide that moves up and down, pulling the thread from the spool and feeding it through the machine. I'm going to move it up and down with a hand wheel. You'll also notice it moving up and down when you press on the foot pedal. At the top of the machine here is the thread guide. These can be hoops, discs, or flat metal pieces that pinch the thread to guide it through the machine while providing proper tension. Those discs are right in there. This is the tension regulator. This dial controls the amount of tension or pinch the thread guide applies to the thread. Too much tension will cause the thread to break, or too little will leave you with loose stitches. Most regulators have some kind of mark on them showing you where the optimum setting is. This is the spool pin. This holds the thread and allows the machine to pull as much thread as it needs for stitching. The thread is held in place with the spool cap, which slides onto the spool pin. This is the Bobbin Winder. Most machines come with built-in bobbin winders and can be found at the top, the front, or the side of the sewing machine. Most winders include the bobbin pin, which you see here, which holds the bobbin while the thread is being wound. There are also a series of thread guides along the top of the machine, and also a tension disc that helps to maintain the tension while winding the bobbin. Also included is the start and stop lever, which just moves back and forth. When it's in that position, it tells your machine that you are winding the bobbin and not stitching fabric. The front of your machine is where your bobbin is housed. You will pull this forward, and then you will see this, which is your bobbin cover. Simply pull this down to access the bobbin. Underneath the bobbin cover is the bobbin case. This holds the bobbin and helps to guide the bobbin thread up through the needle. It's removed from the bobbin case by pulling up on this tab and then removing it from the machine. This is the tab. Inside the bobbin case is the bobbin. The bobbin is a small disc that holds the thread that will be the bottom of each stitch. On the front of your machine, you will see a bunch of buttons or knobs. This is the stitch length regulator. This allows for the adjustment of stitch length by changing the amount of fabric that the feed dog pulls under the needle. The lower the stitch length, the tighter the stitch. This set of buttons up here is the stitch width regulator. This allows you to alter the stitch width for something like a zigzag stitch. For our purposes, you're going to want to keep this as low as possible. This button in the center here determines where the needle is in relation to the presser foot. For our purposes, we're going to want it right in the center.